this section, we'll talk about the metric system a little bit. So first of all, the metric system always starts with the base. From that base, we can go either bigger or smaller, but it's always by powers of 10. So the next thing bigger than the base would be deca, and then hecta, and then kilo. Smaller than the base, we would start with deci, D-E-S-I, and then centi, C-E-N-T-I, and then milli. And then there's these two smaller ones that we don't really use, but in medicine often, this one clear at the end, in science, we use the micro, and this is a Greek letter. It's mu is the name of the Greek letter, but it stands for micro. So one way to remember this order is this acronym: kiss hairy dogs, but drink chocolate milk. So kiss is kilo, H is hecta, dogs is deca, but stands for base, drink is deci, chocolate is centi, milk is milli. The M and the O here we don't really use, but the M at the end is micro. So the unit is always said before the prefix. For example, we would say kilogram or microliter. And the base could be grams, liters, or meters. Grams is a measure of weight usually, liters is a measure of volume, and meters is a measure of distance. So the idea behind the metric system is it's very easy to convert from one unit to another. You just see where you are and where you're going, and you pay attention to how far you need to move and the direction you need to move to get there, and that's what you do with the decimal. The other thing you need to know is that 1 cubic centimeter is equal to 1 milliliter. So often we abbreviate 1 cubic centimeter as 1 cc and 1 milliliter as 1 ml. And with liters, we usually use a capital L so that it's really clear that it's an L. And this is a really common conversion in medicine and in nursing to know that 1 cc is equal to 1 ml. So here's the first two examples. So here we're starting with half a liter. So liters are our units, that's in the middle. And then we'd have deciliters, centiliters, and milliliters. So we're trying to get to milliliters, and we're starting with liters, and we're trying to get here. So that's 1, 2, 3 spots to the right. So we look at our 0.5, and we want to go 1, 2, 3 spots to the right. And that's where we want our decimal to end up. And any open spots we fill in with zeros. So we end up with 500 milliliters. So let's look here at the next one, micrograms. Micrograms is at the very end. Remember, there's two spots that we don't really use. And then the next spot over is milligrams. So if we're starting with micrograms and we're trying to go 1, 2, 3 spots to the left with milligrams. So we look at our 26 and the decimals at the end. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3 spots to the left. And that's where we want our decimal to be. There's an empty spot right here, so we put a 0, and we get 0.026 milligrams. The 0 in front of the decimal doesn't hold any value, it doesn't mean anything, but we usually put it there just so that it's very easy for our eye to see that there's a decimal after it. Okay, so here we're looking at 250 cc's. Remember, that's the same thing as 250 milliliters, and we're trying to go to liters. So we know milliliters is down here, and then centiliters, and then deciliters, and then liters. So if we're starting here, that would be 1, 2, 3 spots to the left. So we look at our 250, and that would be 1, 2, 3 spots to the left. So we want our decimal point to end up there. So we end up with 0.250 liters. Now this 0 on the end we don't have to really write. We could just write 0.25 liters. The next problem goes from milliliters to liters as well. Remember, that's really the same thing as cubic centimeters to milliliters. So we're still going 1, 2, 3 spots to the left. So we look at our 7,500 and the decimal is at the end. We want to go 1, 2, 3 spots. So this is where we want our decimal. So we'd have 7.500. The 00 on the end after a decimal don't really mean anything. So we end up with 7.5 liters. So let's look at this one again. This is micrograms. Remember, micro is at the end, and then there's 2 spots we don't use, and then we have milligrams. So if we're doing grams, these will both have G's at the end of them. So this is really 1, 2, 3 spots to the left. So we look at our 30. Our decimal is really here, so that'd be 1, 2, 3 spots to the left. This empty spot needs a 0. So we'd have 0. Let's talk about this for a second. We could put 030, but this 0 at the very end after a decimal doesn't really matter. So we would write 0.03. That's our answer. Metric system makes it very easy to move from one unit to another.